HarperCollins presents The Plantagenets, The Kings Who Made England, by Dan Jones. Read by Dan Jones. For a sensible man ought to consider that fortune's favour is variable, and her wheel is ever turning. The prince must take care, and always have imprinted on his mind the fact that although the merciful Creator is long-suffering and patient, he is likewise severe in executing punishment and vengeance upon the stubborn and wilful, and usually begins to exact that punishment here on earth. Gerald of Wales, The Conquest of Ireland. Preface. Who were the Plantagenets? The name was not used by any of the characters in this book to describe themselves, with the exception of one. Geoffrey, Count of Anjou, a handsome, belligerent, red-headed young man born in 1113, who wore a sprig of yellow broom blossom in his hat and decorated his shield with lions. It was from the Latin name Plantagenester of the broom that the name Plantagenet derived, while lions passant-gardant would become the heraldic symbol of English kingship, carried before vast armies who took to the field everywhere from the chilly lowlands of Scotland to the dusty plains of the Middle East. There is some irony here. Geoffrey never visited England, took scant direct interest in the affairs of the realm, and died in 1151. 3 years before his eldest son inherited the English crown. Nevertheless, Plantagenet is a powerful name. The kings who descended from Geoffrey ruled England for more than 2 centuries, beginning with Henry II, who inherited the crown in 1154, and ending with Richard II, who was relieved of it by his cousin Henry Bolingbroke in 1399. They were the longest-reigning English royal dynasty, and during their times were founded some of the most basic elements of what we today know as England. The realm's borders were established. Her relationships with her neighbours, principally Scotland, Wales, France and Ireland, but also the Low Countries, the Papacy and the Iberian states that would eventually become Spain, were established. Principles of law and institutions of government that have endured to this day were created in their essential forms, some deliberately, others either by accident or under duress. A rich mythology of national history and legend was concocted, and the cults of 2 national saints, Edward the Confessor and St. George, were established. The English tongue rose from an uncultured, rather coarse local dialect to become the language of parliamentary debate and poetic composition. Great castles, palaces, cathedrals and monuments were raised, many of which still stand as testament to the genius of the men who conceived them, built them, and defended them against attack. Heroes were born, died, and became legends. So too were villains, whose names still echo through the pages of history. Some of those villains wore the crown. Several of the most famous and dramatic battles in European history were fought at Bouvines and Bannockburn, Sluis and Winchelsea, Crécy and Poitiers. Military tactics were revolutionized between a Norman age in which warfare was the art of siegecraft and the dawn of the 15th century, during which pitched battles were commonplace, and the English, with their brave men-at-arms and deadly mounted archers, were the scourge of Europe. Likewise, by the end of the Plantagenet years, the English had begun to explore the art of warfare on the open seas. Naval tactics lagged some way behind tactics in the field, but by the middle of the 14th century, something resembling an English navy could be deployed to protect the coasts and attack enemy shipping. It is undeniable that during the Plantagenet years, many acts of savagery, butchery, cruelty and stupidity were committed, but by 1399, where this book ends, the chilly island realm, which had been conquered by William the Bastard of Normandy in 1066, had been transformed.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?